party and the ruling party, especially between the candidates of the People's Democratic Party (PDP) and that of the APC, Bola Ahmed Tinubu. It was something that was interesting. The APC candidate was reacting to the statement made by Atiku Abubakar in an Arise television interview and dispelling some of what was said, especially the issue of Tinubu wanting to be his running mate at some time, and queried Tinubu's choice of a Muslim running mate and a same-faith ticket. The APC candidate Bola Tinubu responded and has questioned the attention to facts and details by the PDP candidate, saying some of what is said in the interview were not factual. As that back and forth was happening between Atiku Abubakar and Bola Tinubu, there was some kind of politicking that was also going on, this time around in Owerri in the southeast, where Governor Hope Uzodinma had gathered some APC stakeholders and they were busy strategizing. They had a meeting with some APC stakeholders about the APC, the 2023, and how the party can strategize or strengthen its base in the region. Tonight, we begin our conversation not from politics, but from policy and governance issue. Now, in some of the performance of the APC government and the expectations of Nigerians about what the Buhari government is up to and what they are doing, the Buhari government sometimes beat its chest of efforts in infrastructure development. There was a man tagged as super minister in the first term of President Buhari, considering some of the tasks and the role that he was saddled with and the portfolios he carried. The work was daunting, not perhaps reduced in the second term. And when it commenced, the minister was giving the Ministry of Works and Housing to administer. The minister, Babatunde Fashola, senior advocate of Nigeria, was a two-term governor of Lagos State and a senior advocate of Nigeria, perceived as one of the pillars of the Buhari administration. The Minister of Works and Housing is our guest tonight on the program, and he joins us live here in our Abuja studio. Thank you so much, Honorable Minister, for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me. Good evening.
Let's begin the conversation. I'd like us to dive straight because there's a lot to talk about. I mean, if we start with works, we'll probably need 3 hours to dig into every area. But let's touch on some of the most important and see how far we can go before we then talk about politics. First and foremost, can you tell Nigerians, Ms. Fashola, the projects that this government initiated, and has completed in the last 7.5 years?
Well, we started a couple of projects, and we must just understand that we're dealing here with over 1,000 different contracts. Each of our work is a basis of contracts. So we have over 1,000 contracts, the moving target always. We have about 13,000 kilometers of road network under construction across every state of Nigeria. We have housing projects in 34 states, about to start the 35th, and the FCT, and some of those projects have been completed. Many are in different stages of completion. In the last 6 months or so, you have covered, just as other media houses have covered, ministers representing the president to hand over completed sections of roads from north to south, east to west of Nigeria. The most recent one are the roads in Ekiti, Efalaye, Iwaraja Road, the Isoko Ring Road in Delta, the Unguru, Gashua, Bayamari, the sections between Unguru and Adeja, the section between Gashua and Bayamari, Lafia Tunga Road, and different housing projects inside the universities and federal tertiary institutions like teaching hospitals. We've also been there completing, handing over roads. Some of the roads were not started by us, but the were roads for the Nigerian people, not for any particular government. And we have made haste with as many of them as we can finance, and we have finished them. Again, you must understand that the roads we're dealing with are very long roads. Some of them running into hundreds of kilometers. So they are worded in sections, maybe over 3 contractors, 4 contractors, which is standard global best practice to distribute wealth in the economy. So they are completed in sections and open to traffic. So there's a lot, and even if I tried, if I was a computer, I couldn't sit down here and recall everything from memory.
So what we will do is we'll touch on some of the visibly obvious ones to Nigerians, because not all Nigerians fly some of these roads, but the ones that perhaps have grabbed the headlines. Let's talk about some of them. Although I asked a question about initiation, starting, and completion. All this project that you're talking about, can you give Nigerians some of these major, maybe 5 of them that you initiated, started, and have completed in 7.5 years?
Well, at the moment, I can't, off the top of my head, recall what was initiated, what was completed. We're talking about 500, 300, 200, 150-kilometer roads. Who finishes them in 2 years or 3 years or 5 years? The process of even constructing a road, and I think it's important to ask, first starts with design. To design a road of about 100 kilometers might take you up to a year or more, because today the global benchmarks for road design financing is that you must do environmental impact study, you must do environmental, social, and impact assessment. You must plan to relocate people. Otherwise, you won't get finance for it. That takes time. Then you go to actual design, and then you go to budget. And budget is an annual cycle. So if, for example, now I am designing a road this year, the call circular for 2023 budget is already out. So if that road is not ready in design now, it can't go into 2023. It's going to go into 24. And I appeal to you to please check where in the world do you finish 100-kilometer road in a year or 2 from design, if you follow all of the approval. So we need to stop making this pedestrian conversation, who started it, who finished it. If governments did only what they finished, then we won't do anything. The real thing is to think ahead for this country. That's why you have a medium-term development framework. It's not things that we want to finish tomorrow. We're planning for the country. That's how government works. So,
we need also to bring government to account on what,
by all means,
on what they say they've done, and there are slow pace of work. Where situation have arisen. But let's start with.
Okay, so let's go to one slow pace of work.
let's begin with the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway. That's about 125 kilometers.
127.
127 kilometers of that road. The question a lot of Nigerians who are not bothered about how long it will take is how many years we've been on this road. When will this road be completed? That, I think, is the most important thing to Nigerians who are watching right now.
The expected completion date now will be in the last month of this year. We are hoping that we will be done before Christmas. And that is subject to a lot of variables. As we speak now, somewhere between Ojo, the Oyo State government is constructing a drainage facility. So that has slowed down our work considerably, in spite of the fact that the contractor is now working at night. So just 2 days ago, Governor Makinde and I were talking, because I called him a week ago, that look, we need to make a choice. Which do you prioritize, the drainage or that road? And he said, look, the road is what affects, but we can't dismiss the need for the drainage. So he called me back to say, look, he has a solution now. He's worked with the contractors, he's talked to them, and we will discuss it in this new week. So these are some of the challenges. Then let me also say that over the years, at the time we took $12 billion to go and pay creditors in 2005, this road was bad. People used to sleep on it. So let us dimension that completion. The road is built in sections. That road has no less than 40,000 vehicles every day. That's the traffic road count that we did. So you can't close it down. So what we do is to close sections of one side, divert traffic to the other side, complete about 10, 20 kilometers, and then reopen it and move traffic back. Now, what you might not know, and it's important to share this, the construction material largely comes from Ogun State. So whether you are constructing the Lagos section or the Oyo section, you have to go and move laterite, cross stones, and all of that. They move in the same traffic. So thousands of daily truck trips. And that road is being excavated to about 1 meter or more deep. So we're essentially first removing bad material, unsuitable material, filling up, and then constructing the road. So I don't think it is slow. What has happened is that over the years, government has not funded this sufficiently. It is this president that has gone abroad to say, some of the money that was stolen from Nigeria, please give it back to me. I want to use it to build a road in Nigeria. And on his integrity and reputation, some of those monies have been released. It is this president that has said, okay, the dividends from NLNG will be applied to this road. So these dividends were there before. Why didn't anybody think about them? And now, if you check, on the average, if you Google traffic time on that road now, even though we are not yet finished, it's less than 2 hours now to go to Ibadan. You can do Ibadan and come back twice a day now. And we haven't finished. People used to do a one-way trip for a whole day. So that's progress.
Now, so the word is, in summary,
we plan to finish this year.
In December this year.
Subject to some of these challenges that I've told you, because we don't want to finish and then the road is opened again because you have to excavate. So we're waiting for your state to solve it. Governor Makinde and I will resolve that pretty soon. Okay, so the expectation, December, possibly. Yeah. And if not, maybe January. And if you see, the lane marking is already going on. The road furniture is already simultaneously being installed. So, and the last 6 kilometers on the Julius Burgess side is already being done into Lagos. So what is left is about 15 kilometers on the RCC side into Ibadan. Okay. So give or take, we have about 21 kilometers on both sides. Precisely. Yeah. Now, that will be told. That road will be told at some point after that completion. Eventually, it will be told. It will be handed over to the concessionaires who NSIA is talking to bring in more financing. Have they won the bid already? No. That's why I can't name a concessionaire. Okay. NSI is a government agency working to stimulate investment to finance the road. Okay. At what point did you design a tolling infrastructure on that 127 kilometers? At what point, how many of points can we expect tolling on that road? Off the top of my head, and I want to say this with a caveat, I think it's 3 toll plazas. I think so. That's possible. One on the Lagos end, one in the Ogun end, and I think in Ogiri, and the other one which is in Ibadan, which is what we used to have there before traditionally. Let's move quickly also to, so Nigerians are keeping tabs on some of the things that you have said, and expectations are that some of the things that you said will come to fruition based on work that has been seen. The second Niger bridge, what is the extent of work and what is the possible completion date? Okay, so let me answer the second question first, which is that we're planning also before Christmas to open that to public for use, because that's when there is a large movement of Christmas. You mean Lagos Ibadan? No. Second Niger bridge. We're planning, hopefully, touch wood, by Christmas, it should also be open. That was the last meeting I had with the contractor, I think about 3 weeks ago. There are challenges, of course, as you might know, but the main bridge deck is finished. The toll plazas have been built. Now, the 7-kilometer road from the Obosi side linking the bridge to the Anambra end is what is being worked on. The last time I went there, I think about 5 kilometers of it has already been paved. But we were waiting for the sand because it's built on reclaimed soil. So there's a process using prevaricated vertical drums to accelerate the settlement of the reclaimed sand so that they can build. I haven't been there now. I think I went there in January or February. So, but I get reports and there's progress. Now, we have to build a link road on the Asaba side, which is about 4 kilometers. So we just finished that design. This was the review we were doing about 3 weeks ago, and we are trying to sort out the issue of community claims for compensation and all of that. But this is high tide season, so no meaningful work can go on now. Contractor remains confident that that 4-kilometer road can be completed before December. So touch wood, bridge is finished. It's just the access road now to link it.
So for those who are applying Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, December is fact that they can apply that road for.
They're already using it while we're building anyway,
without no major construction.
Yeah, we should be done.
Same with the second Niger.
We expect to be done. That's our plan.
Now, for those who are also worried about some major expressway, the Sango-Abeokuta Expressway, I'd like to know what is the thing, because there are a lot of disaster happening on that stretch of road. And another one is the Ibadan-Ilorin Expressway. It's been on the car since 1979. That's about 43 years ago. And the question would be, what exactly is the problem?
I got there 6.5 years ago.
You made reference to government coming and coming.
So let's talk about Ibadan-Ilorin. That is the road that leads you through Oyo, Ogbomoso to Ilorin. Now, and you will recall that when this administration was elected, between Ilorin and Jeba, a barely 100-kilometer stretch used to take 4 days. It's now 90 minutes. Yes, let me repeat it. Ilorin and Jeba used to take 4 days. I went there. I saw people moving goods, perishables. They were either selling them or throwing them away. People were slaughtering their cattle because they were going to die. They were trapped in there for days. 100 kilometers. It now takes 90 minutes. We did that. Now, the continuation all the way down to Ibadan is the outer ring road, taking the road out of Ogbomoso town. It was awarded before we came, but it was never funded. Now, so we initiated the Sukuk. And if you go there now, you will see that work is going on apace. There were issues, community issues. There was also land. There was a part of the road that passed through an old Methodist church. And members of the church came to appeal that we should change the alignment because they do not want to lose that historic church. I acceded to that request. So that took time to redesign that section. So now that road is now benefiting from the NNPC tax credit scheme. That NNPC tax credit scheme, for your information, is coming from the PTDF, the Petroleum Development Trust Fund. If you go and Google PTDF, you will see the scandal that PTDF used to represent before this administration, sleaze and scandal. And Buhari has turned that around. PTDF now represents investment in infrastructure through the NNPC. So that road will be finished. We have a timeline for it. I can't remember that off the top of my head because there were 21 roads that we made all the contractors sign completion dates for that fund, because the major problem in the past and even partly now is inadequate funds to do all of the things that Nigeria needs to build. And our road to greatness and prosperity is going to be built on the foundation of our prosperity.
If I stay on roads alone, because I monitor the situation on the Abuja-Kano road, the Sokoto Expressway, the Akure-Ado-Ekiti Express, road. These roads are not in motorable condition.
Which road?
The Abuja, the Akure-Ado-Ekiti.
Akure-Ado-Ekiti was not, there was no funding for it. That's why it's not in motorable condition. So let's talk about how democracy works.
Yeah, but the question is that for Nigerians, just a moment. For Nigerians, what they want is what their government would do for them.
Yes.
So the question is that when they are raising some of these issues,
it's a legitimate issue to raise it. Let me respond to it.
Okay, absolutely. Go ahead, please.
Let me respond to it. It's important to sit down and look at the budget. We don't pay enough attention to these things. Okay? So let us take Lagos-Ibadan Expressway. That road passes through 3 states. Each state has 3 senators. That's 12 senators. 9 senators. Lagos has 24 reps. I think Oyo has 14. I think Ogun has 9. When did all those reps sit down to say, by hook, by crook, this is our priority, and we are going to budget for it. Until we put this fund, the Presidential Infrastructure Fund and the NLNG, go and look at what was in those budgets. 10 billion, 5 billion. Which contractor mobilizes for a 200 or plus billion road or 5 billion? Do you know how much it takes to set up a construction yard? So go through the budget. That's what you will see. 200 million for a 10 billion road. So these are the issues. Unless there are special and dedicated interventions like this, like the Sukuk and all of that. Even the Sukuk, when we started, it was 25 roads, okay, with 100 billion. Now we're at 77 roads, right, with 210 billion. Are we getting better? Everybody insists. And the final decision about how much you can spend is with Parliament, understandably so, the power of the purse. So we now have 77 roads struggling for 210 billion. Averagely, if you average it out, 3 billion. What does that do on those roads that you are talking about? With 3 billion build Ekiti to Ondo Road, Akure Ado Ekiti Road? It won't.
So there are no hopes for those people who are asking.
No, we have put some sukuk there so that work can start. We are looking at talking to the African Development Bank. You have to borrow. Yeah. If we borrow, some people will say, why are you borrowing?
Yeah, but let's talk about those Sukuk funds. And I mean, it's at the point in time when the nation is talking
about. So the NNPC again, through tax credit, has intervened. These are all initiatives trying to solve a big problem. These are things we left undone for decades.
Okay. Let me ask you this and foremost. I mean, first and foremost, before we go into the Sukuk bonds, and I'd like you to clarify a few issues. Now, this government will say infrastructure as being, they've taken infrastructure as priority. But as a minister that has taken a huge chunk of that sector, can you beat your chest tonight and tell Nigerians that this government has done well and met expectations of Nigerians in that aspect?
I can beat my chest and say that I have improved significantly on what we met. And the test of the pudding is simply in the eating. So on all of those roads where we are working, those we have completed, those we are still working on, go and ask the commuters what their experience was before we came. Go and ask them what their experience is today and what their expectation is against December and against next year. I can say that very, very confidently because I've had the support of my principal. He understands that the basis of building an economy is infrastructure. That's what translates to ease of doing business, efficiency, choice, productivity. And that is also the way to legitimately distribute wealth. So we are talking of infrastructure and roads. You are not seeing the bigger picture. Every time we issue a contract, banks are issuing advance payment guarantees. They're charging commission. Engineers, consultants are employed on site to inspect, to sign reports. They don't do that for free. We pay them. People are supplying quarry, they're supplying asphalt, they're supplying diesel, they're supplying lubricants. Artisans are employed on site. Laboratories are involved to test quality. People are vending food, water on every construction site. Able, young-bodied men and women willing to work go to those sites. So you are moving, you're supplying millions of liters of diesel. It's not government that does the diesel supply. It's not the contractor. So that's an economic exchange, an ecosystem of opportunities. So it's more than just a road or a bridge or a house. Is moving money around, creating wealth and opportunities.
Yeah, I'll still come to the Sukuk. Like I said, I need some clarification on that because I understand that about 10 Sukuk bonds that have been taken under these.
10 Sukuk bonds?
Yeah, isn't it?
Your information is not correct.
Okay, so we'll get to that in a moment and you clarify. That's why I said we need some clarification. But before we go into that, Honorable Minister, let's call a spade a spade. Is this nation broke?
I don't manage the finances of the country. I know that there are financial headwinds globally, and all the nations, or almost all of them, are facing one economic challenge or the other. Access to funding is becoming challenging. There are so many reasons for that. There's a global lockdown that happened during COVID, so economic activities slowed down. One of the biggest production centers in the world is still battling with COVID, and in a global economy today, is almost like a domino effect when there's a problem in one part of the world. But to the extent that we are able to access credit, if you are not financially solvent and viable, then you have a problem. To the extent that we are able to access credit, we are still reasonably able to fund some of our obligations, most of our obligations, I would say. There has been no notice of default issued by any of our creditors. And so we must also understand, and I make this distinction with public finance is not home economics. The challenges and the variables are different.
So because you're central to the economic factors and the variations that has happened over the years, but Naira is on a free fall. And the projections are not looking good at all. Even the federal, the Minister of Finance have come out to say our revenue is troubled. Because of the position that you hold in this cabinet and this government, what can you tell Nigerians about the economy, which you play a central role, and how do you convince Nigerians that this government is doing the right thing?
Well, you see, one of my favorite sayings is that let us have a conversation with right-thinking and well-meaning people. And I think it was a favorite saying of late Chief Obafemi Awolowo too, because not everybody agrees with you, and not everybody also has the same view about what is right. But the important thing is that, for example, no minister can tell you, and that has never happened, no minister can tell you that he has all the resources to do all what it needs. Nigeria, like every nation, doesn't have all of the resources to do what we need to do in Nigeria. So we have to make choices. But given the challenges that we met, the challenges that we anticipated, the ones that we did not anticipate, I think as far as the fundamentals of the economy are concerned, right, the basic foundation for projecting growth are being laid. And yes, people feel pain, people feel discomfort, and this has always been the case. Whether I go back to the period of Udoji Arias, Udoji Award, there is a song that was sung, I think, shortly after I was born, before I was born, it's always been like that. But a glorious dawn is on the horizon. This can't go on globally forever. And if you put all the fundamentals in place, where a 1-hour journey doesn't take 6 hours, people will become more efficient. People will have choice. But in that process of rebuilding, there will be some pain. Maybe this is that pain that we are going through. But at the end of it, I see that with good infrastructure, we will be able to compete better. All the nations we want to be like are sitting on a foundation of well-established infrastructure, rail, airports, highways, choice, intracity rail, efficient broadband, and that is why. So our population has grown at a rate faster than we have provided infrastructure. And that is what this government is focused on. So it's not infrastructure for infrastructure, it's infrastructure for a better life.
Well, yeah, man, you might be working on infrastructure, but the question is how much of, how better has it made the lives of Nigerians? Because the question, the emphasis, okay, so you've spoken beautifully about the situation, but the situation is looking more gloomy than it is in reality. Because if you compare what things have had,
the picture of gloom that you paint,
it's not what I paint, it is the reality.
It's not an isolated
what the Minister of Finance said on Thursday.
So financing the budget is challenging for every country in the world today. Show me one exception. So, but in that context, you see that in places where we have built infrastructure, for example, land values have increased. That land doesn't belong to us. So the asset value of the landowner, where we have improved infrastructure, has gone up by 30 or 40%. He's richer by that much. In places where we are building, jobs have emerged. Those jobs were not there when we came. So if we're not building, they won't be there. I speak to these people at construction sites, and they say, look, thank the president too, but for him, we wouldn't even have a job. Some of them make as much as 10,000, 15,000, 3,000, 5,000 daily. And they are contracted for 2-3 years.
These are the segments of a bigger picture, but the bigger picture is not looking good. For example, as much as you talk about this infrastructure, The question is, what are the infrastructure without security? We will plan on this infrastructure without good security. These are some of the questions Nigerians are raising.
So
and
if you want to talk about
example,
security, so let's go there and say that I think that my own view, my belief, is that we need to have a more rigorous intellectual conversation about national security. I've listened to quite a number of interventions on this program. I agree with some, I disagree vehemently with others. I think that we need to first look at security beyond guns, beyond law enforcement agents. Law enforcement agents don't necessarily guarantee security. There are certain things that reside with us, a value system, for example, and that is built from the homes, and the management of conflict at communal level to resolve conflict so that they don't last beyond the night. Because inevitably, when you bring law enforcement, there has been a breach already, except of us, and I acknowledge the deterrent effect that law enforcement can provide. But the truth of the matter is, how do we ensure that conflict is reduced to the barest minimum? Some of the security issues arise from land. They arise from drug abuse. They arise from a belief system.
Minister, the question is how your government has been able to handle it. Whether or not you have handled it better. Whether or not Nigeria has dipped in terms of insecurity over the years.
Well, it depends on the security challenges, and I'm not here to faff over that. But I can tell you that when I came to Abuja in 2015, I know what the security challenges in Abuja were.
Are you saying they are better now?
Listen to me. Let me answer your question. So I know what the security challenges were. There was hardly a public building in Abuja that you could enter without waiting for about 30 minutes. You will pass through soldiers sitting behind sandbags. All of that has disappeared. This economy didn't run after 7 p.m. All of that has disappeared. New challenges have come up, and they need to be addressed. In 2010, there was no celebration that could be held by the government of Nigeria at Eagle Square. Not one. It used to be held in the courtyard of the villa. All of that is now happening. So those were security challenges. They have been overcome. New ones have evolved, as new ones will evolve for if time ever ends. So let's understand and contextualize things. And I'm telling you that let us have an intellectual conversation, a rigorous conversation. Crime has benefits for those who perpetrate it. How do we either take out the criminals, or take out the benefits, or take out both? And you need some intellectual rigor around it, instead of just saying, oh, remove the service chiefs, go and bring. Those are the conversations we were having.
Let's take a breather, Honorable Minister, because there are a lot of issues which I'm afraid I have all my papers filled here with.
Don't worry, I'm here for as long as you want me.
But we'll take a breather
to engage you on those issues.
And when we come back, there are a few issues that we need to touch on the issues of infrastructure. What the Buhari government has done under Babatunde Fashola as a Minister of Works and Housing. In fact, we've not even touched on housing. But we go to the APC and the 2023 elections. Sarah Fashola is still with us. Stay with us, everyone. We'll be right back.
This matter don't tire about. The people of Akamata community, they vex say person don't lock their shops. But then they use sell market.
I hear say Ogachamo lock their shops, so I dey rush go tell my people them now self. Now waiting I hear, and them too must to hear am.
Oh boy, now what for you? You don't check this news, so make you know if not true. Oh boy, take am easy, yo. Make you no go cause contact for this community. Kasalafi boss, so.
Cynthia, relax. This kind tori no fit be lie. E no fit be lie.
Any tori fit be lie. If you never confirm am for the ogbonge place, no spread am at all. No use your yanga go wake wahala from sleep. I think you dey hear me. If you see any person with they carry lie news, sharp, carry him matter go tell the authorities them. We go do am strong thing. Now the Center for Democracy and Development, CDD, with support from the UK government, they bring in this message.
you so much, everyone, for staying with us right here on Sunday Politics and Channels Television. The Minister of Works and Housing, Mr. Babatunde Fashola, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, has been our guest tonight on the program. Thank you so much indeed for your time.
Thank you for having me.
I'll backtrack just for a moment because there are concerns over the Lagos, the Abeokuta, Sangwater-Abeokuta road. Governor Dakwa Abiodun has declared an emergency on the Sangwater-Abeokuta road. He says his government will take over the road if the federal government is unable to fix it. How do you react to this?
Okay, so I have been talking to Governor Abiodun for a bit, and I am not going to engage in needless administrative detail here, but I know that Governor Abiodun is aware, is a law-abiding citizen and a governor. He knows that that road is a federal road, and I don't know where his powers to take over a federal road will come from. I think the powers to administer a federal highway by the Federal Highways Act rests with the minister. And I have provided every support that I can. That road is being funded by the Sukuk. There's a contractor working there, Julius Berger. That road was inherited by this administration, and from the Lagos end, work is going on. I am aware that at the Ota-Songo end, work hasn't progressed significantly to his satisfaction, but we are limited by the resources that we have. Governor Abiodun has spoken to me before that he wanted to fund the road, and I said, show me where the money is coming from. Where do you have the money? The road is about 56 billion naira. How much?
Was he able to show you?
Well, I'm still waiting. I'm sure he has something he wants to show me. That's why he wants to take it over. If he can provide a source of funding, then we will go through the process of transferring a road from a federal government to a state government, because there's a law that specifies how that is done. So, and I'm sure that Governor Abiodun has enough of his own state roads too to engage and occupy his attention.
Let's go into and get your clarification about the Sukuk bonds. Please, can you clarify this concept of the Sukuk? We understand that it is not a loan. How do we repay, and how confident are you that tolls will be adequate to repay the facility?
No, not all the Sukuk roads are going to be tolled. We announced a tolling policy for Nigeria after a FEC approval, and we specified and described the kind of roads which will be dual carriageways that will be tolled. The dual carriageways represent only about, I think, 20% or so of the national road network of about 200,000 kilometers. Essentially, unless it is totally unavoidable, single carriageways will not be tolled. The Sukuk is debt being taken by government, but it is not conventional debt. It is Islamic debt where interest is considered as usury and haram. And Debt Management Office has contracted to take that debt so that we use it to finance infrastructure. And in that process, the Sukuk takes interest in the asset until the debt is liquidated. That is how basically Islamic debt, Islamic financing works, and it is used globally. The difference between it and what we are used to is the charging of interest, but it is debt.
And we are in a debt crisis at the moment. Debt servicing, the Minister of Finance came out and talked about the debt servicing.
I think that you need to understand the clip that I saw about the Minister of Finance. She didn't say that we were in a debt crisis. She didn't say that. She was talking about the challenges of financing subsidy, and if it was the same thing, let me finish. If it was the same thing that I saw recently in the public conversation where they were presenting, I think, medium-term expenditure framework or something, the challenges of financing our budget with maintenance of subsidies. She didn't say Nigeria was in a debt crisis. She didn't say that. So don't import words that I don't recall hearing. Unless you hear, and if you hear where she said debt crisis, play it. Let Nigerians listen to it.
Minister, and I'd like to ask, I asked the question again, earlier on, whether or not Nigeria is broke. And
I've told you that to the best of my knowledge, Nigeria is not broke. Being indebted and being able to service your debt in conventional finance is not being broke. In any event, I think you must understand that the business of lending itself is a profitable business. So if nobody contracted debt, where would all the banks and the financial institutions be? Where would they throw all the people they employ? So this is a matter of credit rating and credit reputation. And it is this home economics mentality that I can't take debt that led us to take $12 billion cash to go and pay off a debt we could have rescheduled, renegotiated, when our infrastructure was dying. That mentality must leave our table. All of the big nations we want to compete with are contracting debt to build their infrastructure and outperform competition. And as long as you can service your debt, you are good.
So you think that Nigeria is okay with the progression of our debts?
Look, listen, Sheon, don't import words into
I'm asking,
I know what Minister, I say. I choose my words.
No,
and
Minister,
I'm saying that, look, okay, let me reverse the question.
You're taking the job in trust from Nigerians.
Let me reverse the question. And
they have the right to know whether or not what the situations are.
I can conveniently tell you here that I'm not Nigeria's Minister of Finance. My job is to spend the money, not to earn it. That's my job.
Do you care whether or not the manner in which we are borrowing is too much as a burden?
I am concerned, and every responsible Nigerian should have his eye on the debt, and you should be concerned. But the conversation to have, so you are reeling out Lagos Ota, you are reeling out Ekiti, Akure, Ado Ekiti, and all of those. Where's the money going to come from? Should we increase taxes? Let's have the debate. Who should we tax more? Which road, which state will say don't do our road? If there's any state that say don't do our road, don't do our bridge, our debt obligation and our finance obligation is reduced by that reduction. That is the point.
The government, your party promised that you are going to do this. You promised Nigerians that you have the capacity to do it.
We promise you change, and we are delivering them on infrastructure. You can see them.
The indices
are getting better.
When you got in the government, 2015 and now, Honorable Minister, the price of commodities in the market, the debts burden when you get into office.
So let's go there.
Let's go there. I mean, I have the statistics.
I want to go there. So let's go there.
So the question is that the indices are totally different from what we have today.
So my first question to you.
I asked the question.
Yes, I will answer you, and I will answer
I'm
you.
not obliged to
answer you rhetorically. You don't have to answer.
Go ahead, please.
I will answer you rhetorically. Show me one country where the cost of living is going down. That is why nations have wage reviews. That is why they do salary reviews. This government has done it. It has not only done it, it has helped governments, state governments that are not able to pay. It gave out bailout funds. Which Nigerian government did that in our history when there was pain? We have refunded debt contracted by our predecessors for road infrastructure. Their road infrastructure done. We've refunded almost $1 trillion, 700 and something billion. That's part of the debt you are talking about. It was contracted by the previous government. So, and let us go back. How much was the price of fuel in 1999? It was 20 naira. They left it at 65 naira. That's a 300% increase, if my math is correct. So, which country is the price going down? This is the reality of life. How much was the exchange rate? It was about $40. How much did they leave it at?
Well, it's heading towards
no. It's not what it's heading to.
No. I mean,
it is the reality of life that prices are headed in the wrong direction, and the whole world now is facing a challenge. And let us understand, let us educate people, right? If you are talking about interest rate, FX, for example. FX is a quantum of what you earn. What are we exporting against what we are importing and what we are demanding? So if the country is not earning it, central bank doesn't print dollars. It's economics. When there is an over-demand for a commodity, basic economics tells you the price goes up.
All right. Minister,
so it's that simple.
I'd like to take
if we earn more dollars, the exchange rate will come down.
Unfortunately, I may not be able to push further in this direction because I want to take you into politics. We're in the season of politics. But quickly, maybe in 30 seconds, if you may. Security and securing this nation is what this government has promised.
Yeah.
And right now, would it be a case of this government hiding its head in shame with the situation that we have on our hands. Look at what happened to those that are being kidnapped and the weeping that we've seen with these elements doing in Kaduna, northwest region of the country. You promised as a major agenda to secure this country. Would you say, or would you agree, that security is better today?
I sympathize very, very deeply and sincerely with everybody who has been a victim of crime. I've also been a victim of crime in my previous life, and it's not a nice experience. And I hope that somehow this government comes through for them and brings them relief. But having said that, Shehu, security is not something that I will sit down and politicize. It is like oxygen. Now, the odds against government every time is that government has to be right all the time. The criminals have to be right only once. And that is why I said earlier that the security conversations require some very, very detailed rigor. If we are not looking at values, if we are not looking at how crime proceeds are dealt with, how we can intercept that to make it unprofitable, if people believe, for example, that you can kidnap a human being and take body parts and you can make money from human head and all of those funny things. Look, listen, in this country, don't forget that sometimes it takes a long time for a problem to come to full bloom. But the seeds for some of what is happening, not all of them, the seeds were sown many years ago. You remember that in 2001 or 2002, Nigerian policemen went on strike. Maybe you don't recall. They went on strike. The nation was without policemen for like a week or two. Go back into your archives, you see it. That was a warning. You will see that it is state governments that are resourcing and funding policemen. It didn't start yesterday. And that was also a problem. So all of the basic law enforcement civilian capacity has not been met by previous federal governments. And I'm not saying that we have also met them, and they have all accrued at a time now. But I maintain very, very seriously that until we deal with our value system, until we go back through the homes, the religious institutions, reshape values from preaching miracles, sudden wealth, because some of these things are driven by that. They're driven by drugs. They're driven by parents, us, me inclusive, not as involved in the development of our children. So it's going to take more than saying federal government. It's going to take a whole nation to come back and say, this is where we want to head. And I think that conversation is going to be a very extensive one.
All right. Let's get into politics within the next few minutes that we have left on the program. And let me
within 60 seconds.
We still have some few minutes. What's your relationship with Asiwaju Bola Tinubu?
Our relationship is good.
Does it consult you on political matters recently?
We spoke about some matters, I think, about just before the Eid.
How involved would you be in this, his ambition of wanting to become president?
As involved as possible. I've been involved all through. I've played my role, but well, you decide whether it's quiet.
Because your quiet has been so loud.
Because
the silence has been very loud.
Oh, really? I've been MMB.
What does that mean?
Minding my own business.
Oh, yeah.
But I played my role. Yeah. I played my role all through, and I don't need to be in the public space to make my interventions, to offer advice, and to offer suggestions. But if at any point in time it becomes necessary for me to do so, I will do so.
If you look at the conversations between Asiwaju Tinubu and Alhaji Atiku Abubakar over the weekend, I mean, they're discussing issues that is at the center of their ambitions. And for those who are calculating already, in fact, there are deep calculations, which some of us will come out with some of the analysis in the coming days. Now, would you say that there is some kind of miscalculation in the choice of your former principal in respect of his choice of a running mate?
So I'm going to say first and foremost that for both men for whom I have a personal relationship, I think perhaps the exchange of words, at best I would call it a stumble. I hope it's not a tumble. And I mean this in the sense that they should quickly recalibrate and get back to the issues. And that is what concerns Nigerians. Those are the debates we should really have. How do we move ourselves to the prosperity that is imminent that this country will have? Because I know it will happen. Who is the best person to drive that vehicle? In my own opinion, Ashwaju is the best person to drive that vehicle because I've worked with him at very close quarters. I know his capacity, I know his tenacity, and I think that sometimes we need to test some hypotheses, and the opportunity to test this hypothesis is there. My position about religion has been made known on different platforms. I think religion should leave the public space and go back to where it belongs, to the homes and the religious centers. There's too much religion in our public life. And there are no nations that I know that we want to be like that is valorizing religion. It's a private thing. Praying in public and others, I think we should just stop them and get down to the real business. When you are in the office, go and do your work.
But when it affects, when it's a factor in our politics, I mean, as such that it's also a factor in the bigger economies. I mean, bigger countries. I mean, I don't say bigger countries. When it's a factor in more advanced economies.
You see, you're struggling with it. You see, you're struggling.
No, I'm not struggling. I'm just trying to get the right words.
You see,
I'm saying that these are some factors also in democracies that we try to.
You also have to understand that democracy is an undertaking of numbers, essentially. Democracy is not necessarily always rational. It's the tyranny of the majority that has replaced the tyranny of the minority, because democracy was created to stop one man or one woman from dictating to the majority. So it was the tyranny of the minority that democracy came to replace. Democracy sometimes has become a tyranny of the majority, and is an undertaking, I call it an undertaking of multiplication and addition, not of subtraction and division. So everybody will make his political calculation about what he thinks will best serve his purpose. And I think to look at something simply on the basis of A or B is perhaps to miss the point. I have some polls that I did in 2014 that I would have loved to share with you. And I think sometimes we should stop being afraid of fear itself. You know, if this is something that is real, the votes will show it eventually. And that's my take, really. But in terms of, look, at the end of the day, who cares? Who cares, really? We both drank water here. We didn't ask who made the water during the interlude. So that's the issue. People want to drink water. People want good schools. People want good health care. People want infrastructure. They want to be secure. So if you go on both sides, you know, there's been a Christian vice president under a Muslim president. Sadly, people were killed in the church. Sadly, priests have been murdered the same way Muslims have been murdered. Neither the president or the vice president loves those things to happen. I don't, you don't. But it has very little to do with our faith. Those who do it in the name of our faith are not members of our faith. They don't profess our faith. Both faiths preach peace.
And you don't see that there's something.
They preach tolerance. Those people are extremists.
Why does it look like it's your own? I mean, it's not. It doesn't look. It is only your party that has done the same faith choice in this race.
No. So let's not.
That's a fact.
Let's not in this race.
Yes.
Okay, in this race, yes. Okay,
yes.
In this race, yes.
It's only your party that has done the same faith pick.
Yes, for the presidential ticket. Yes. So what are people afraid of? You know, I asked one question. We even assume that there are only two faiths. So if this is about representation, we haven't represented everybody. There are some people, minorities there, who don't belong to both faiths. They have a voice too. So let's find a second vice president for them, or a president for them.
You think he doesn't have any? He's not going to challenge the ticket?
No. I'm just saying that let us demystify this thing about what it really is, and that's why my starting position was leave religion where it belongs.
Right.
In the hearts of people, in the churches and mosques and places of worship, and in the homes. In the public space, no. Religion doesn't belong there.
Mr. Fashola, we need to close down, and we will try to do that in 30 seconds. What is your mind telling you about 2023? Is it a time that perhaps some Nigerians may not think that your party can take them further? And what happened in 2015 when an incumbent was beaten could happen? Do you see that happening?
I think that on the basis of what we have done, Nigerians have had the opportunity of two governments. And I think that's why I said the candidates should return to the issues. On very deep reflection, right-thinking and well-meaning Nigerians will re-elect our party into government. I'm optimistic about that. I think we have served this country as efficiently as we can in the most difficult of times. No government has faced COVID. We did. And, no government has faced a global scarcity of resources caused by a war in which we are not involved. We did. And we are still managing that economy and providing hope and sustenance. Right. I'm optimistic that we will win.
Mr. Babatunde Raji Fashola, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Minister of Works and Housing, thank you so much indeed for coming tonight.
Thank you for
some reasons, we couldn't even go to housing. Well, for some other time, I guess we will be able to get you out of minding your business into public business.
No, as long as I'm a public servant, I'll mind my business, but I'll come and talk to you about housing and other things.
Thank you so much, Mr. Fashola, for coming tonight. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Well, that's our show for tonight, everyone. Many thanks for watching. I'm Sean Okimale. Bye for now.
Nothing works up our emotions like a good game of sports.
Why not enter television, go passer?
And just like life, all it could take is one crazy idea to change the game and set the stage for your success.
Okay, guys, listen. We have to tighten our defense. You, make sure you pass the ball. Let's go.
This is how winners are made. They spot a chance to own the game and seize that chance to take their fate into their own hands. Are you ready to win? 1xBet. Bets for every taste.
What does it take to create a masterpiece? It takes only the rarest materials, meticulously crafted and exclusively designed, intricately engineered, with the most refined finishes. This is what Sujimoto stands for. Just like a masterpiece, the Lucrezia by Sujimoto, Nigeria's most expensive high-rise building, is a product of delicate engineering, masterfully designed with a royal heritage and spiced with premium. With only 2 units left, Lucrezia by Sujimoto limited edition 4-bedroom maisonettes and penthouse is more than a masterpiece.